The penultimate episode of the season opens up with everybody trying to write a different slogan for the Indian Valley Railway so that they can win the contest. After much discussion, the band decide that their pick will be... They write it down on a piece of paper and they throw it out the jukebox. Meanwhile, the two teens of Schemer and Schemy and the kids are trying to figure out what their respective slogans will be. The kids think of, "We may be small but we're nice," while Schemer and Schemy think of the big mean motion machine. And to give the two of them credit, at least it rhymed. The two groups then submit their ideas, with Schemer and Schemy boasting on how their suggestion already won. The two of them then discuss amongst themselves on what the grand prize could be, since it has not been officially stated. They reach the conclusion that it could be a grand cash prize.
I love how Kara's just sitting there the whole time.
Stacy drops by and delivers some apples from the apple trees. The kids then place the apples right in front of the trees by the window. Mr. Conductor then shows up and brings up Johnny Appleseed or something, I don't know, but the important part is he tells a Thomas story. Afterwards, the jukebox band is still upset that nobody's picked up their paper. That is, until Schemer picks it up, and then immediately discards it. Billy shows up, and they all talk more about the apples, and Johnny Appleseed, and how Johnny Appleseed planted the appleseed, and how many fucking times can I say the word apple in this one fucking apple-filled sentence filled with apples and pears. So yeah, Billy tells them the story of Johnny Appleseed, and I wasn't expecting the show to tell us the actual story of Johnny Appleseed, on how he really wasn't a nice guy. But there it is. I'm not going to accuse the show for lying to children because it was kind of common misinformation at the time. But, I don't know, it's still a little awkward to look back on. Afterwards, Schemer and Schemy bring in multiple boxes of candy, to which they say is not for the other kids and is for them only. Schemy then eats all the candy he wants. The two of them then discuss on what they would do with the money. And they pretty much reach the conclusion of buying out Shining Time Station and turning it into what they want because they have the money to do it, much to Stacy's dismay. As Schemer and Schemy leave, the kids walk up to her and ask if the two of them are really going to buy Shining Time Station. Stacy replies that as long as she is around, nothing's going to happen. Then Mr. King arrives in order to pick the grand prize winner. Stacy notices that Billy actually trimmed the branches on the apple tree, making it look all nice and all. And then Mr. Conductor shows up and tells them the Thomas story about the time Thomas was fucking owned by the narrator.
Thomas was a little engine with a long tongue.
God damn! After the Thomas story, Mr. King returns with his two favorites picked out. And it ends up being a draw between the kids and Schemer and Schemies. So as a tiebreaker, he puts both of them in a basket and picks one randomly. And he ends up picking the band's suggestion. Everyone unanimously likes it, and so that is the new slogan for the Indian Valley Railway. Everybody notices the fresh apples that were laid out, with Becky telling Mr. King that Johnny Appleseed planted the tree, with Mr. King seemingly believing the story. Mr. King then tells everybody that the grand prize was a train ride. Because they didn't know who wrote the note, everybody gets to go on the train, except for Schemy because he got a stomachache from eating too much candy. And so the episode ends with the band singing a song. This episode was relatively fun. Schemer and Schemy were obviously the highlight, with them doing what the two characters do best and just being general assholes. Plus the messages of the apples was, a little confusing, but still relatively harmless. Overall, I'd say this episode was a pretty decent time. But hey, I don't care how good this episode is because we got the season finale coming up tomorrow. Woo!